coronavirus. It's a tough opponent, but we're winning, and we're starting to see our country come back. It's been a very exciting few days. We're starting to see it all come back. We're improving the lives of Native American families and tribes more than any administration has ever done by far. We're grateful to be joined by Governor Doug Ducey, and thank you very much, Doug, for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary Eugene Scalia, thank you.
Pleasure.
Senator Martha McSally, who's doing very well. I hear things are very good. You're doing great. Thank you, Martha. Vice President of Navajo Nation, Myron Lizer. And by the way, we appreciate it very much. And you know, there's two ways of saying that name. They told me outside, but I always think of it as Lizer. So how do you like it? How do you like it? That's what I thought. Okay. Thanks, Myron, very much. And Second Lady, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. The Navajo Nation has been very special to a lot of people, and it's certainly been very special to this state. And the relationship, Doug, I think is extraordinary, isn't it, when you get right down to it. So thank you very much, and we very much appreciate it. Native Americans have been hit hard by the terrible pandemic. Over 2,000 members of the Navajo Nation have tested positive for the coronavirus, and tragically more than 70 have lost their lives. How is it looking right now? How's it doing?
Well, the numbers are still rising. We're hoping that it flattens. Our health professionals have said that the peak will be in mid-May, and it's kind of uncanny, and it's fallen that way. So 2,400 infected, with 73 that have succumbed, and that's too many.
That's a lot. Mitigation-wise, you're doing what?
We have shut down enacted a 57-hour curfew over the weekend. Our people love to travel out to the border towns off the reservation. Recently, the National Guard came in and shut down Gallup under a new mayor leadership in Gallup, New Mexico. So they've been on lockdown for 5-6 days now, and so that's helped. But our people are readily going to other border towns like Flagstaff and Farmington, New Mexico. So I think the supermajority are obeying and staying home.
Well, what we're doing, you know, we're bringing these two. These are very hard to come by because they're very popular. This is done by Abbott Laboratories, and we're bringing them for you. And these are the quick tests, and they're very accurate and very fast. So we're doing that. I think we have 1,000 cartridges too, 1,000 for 1,000 tests. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you.
Yes,
we appreciate it. Because you've done a fantastic job. You've been great friends. Native Americans have been hit hard by this terrible pandemic. Over 2,000 members of the Navajo Nation have really, I mean, it's been incredible what's taken place, and there's nothing we can say. But the coronavirus is tragically, as you just said, 70 people lost their lives. The administration is deploying the full resources of the federal government to support and protect our Native American communities in this very grave time of need. And I know that I think I can speak very strongly for Martha and for the governor. We're full hands on deck, and you're working very hard. I know that, Doug. Work very, very hard. And even Department of Labor. It's been working very hard with everybody that's in this room and everybody that needs to be, right? Anything you have to say, by the way, Gene, while you're here, please?
It's a pleasure to be here. It's wonderful being on the road again, as you know, Mr. President. And then great being in Arizona, which is such a spectacular state. And the Native American communities here are such a great part of the state and really our nation and our nation's heritage. So it's so good to be here. I know, Mr. President, you have an important announcement to make today about additional things we're doing to help these tribal governments. And we're certainly doing all we can at the Labor Department to implement the legislation that you signed. You got enacted so incredibly quickly. People forget, 3 weeks in March, 3 major pieces of legislation with paid leave, with unemployment benefits, and with the Paycheck Protection Program to put us in position to get going again. And now Governor Ducey and I were just talking about it. We're reopening, and it's a wonderful thing to see. I think we're well positioned, and I think, Mr. President, with your leadership, we're going to get back to where we were just a few weeks ago. Things were going so well, and we'll get there. We had a nice conversation, the governor, vice president, second lady, and I, a little while ago, talking about some of the things we're doing for the department. I mentioned these dislocated worker grants that are made available also to tribal governments. So I urge you to look into that and see if we can help you with
And
that.
I'd like to introduce also the governor, Stephen Lewis, who's been terrific and working with us very hard. Thank you very much, Stephen. It's fantastic. We appreciate it very much. How is it going?
Well, it's going to a point where we're trying to keep above, beyond the curve as well. We're located just not far from here, our traditional lands and our reservation land base.
That's Hilo River.
Gila River, home to one of the flag raisers on Mount Suribachi, Ira Hayes.
Right.
And
That's beautiful territory, isn't it?
It is. Thank you, President.
But it's how are you doing in terms of the amount? What are your numbers now, as of today? What are your numbers?
Our numbers, we've tested over 1,000. We've had about just over 1,100 tests. We've had 1 fatality. We have 44 positive tests. Our tribal community is around 23,000 members. So we are keeping ahead of the curve, but I know testing is a big issue. And also, thank you for working with your administration on getting one of the Abbott analyzers as well. We were one of the first tribes to get one as well. And then also working with Governor Ducey, getting 5 ventilators as well.
That's right.
We run our own health care, independent of the Indian Health Service, Gila River Healthcare.
That's great.
And so we hire our own doctors, we put our own communities members to work, and from other tribes as well. And so we're taking care of our own tribal members on this. We have we have an incident command that we've started as well. All of our departments are collaborating for one purpose, and that's to keep our community members safe, Mr.
It's
President.
fantastic. Good. And you'll have the ventilators there soon, I know, right? Knowing Doug, they're good ventilators too, aren't they?
Yes.
Right? They're really good. Weeks ago, I signed the CARES Act, which includes $8 billion to help tribal governments, and I want to thank Senator McSally for fighting hard to get those funds and get them here and get them to a lot of different people all over the country, including to the folks in this room. So I want to thank you, Martha. You've done a fantastic job. You really have. This is the single largest investment in Indian country in our history. So the amount of money that's being sent to Indian country, as we call it, is the largest amount in the history of the U.S., and you deserve it, and you've been through a lot. The Navajo Nation will soon receive over $600 million. That's a lot. Should I renegotiate that? Can we renegotiate?
Only if we go up.
He said only if you go up. I understand. I've heard that before. The Lihu River will receive, and I think you probably know all about this, but we're giving you some information, $40 million. And you're going to use that very well. I know that because I know you. You're going to be given $40 million in initial funds to help protect their citizens from the scourge, from the plague, from what we're all fighting in this country. Should have never happened, should have been contained from where it came. Since I took office, my administration has also worked to repatriate precious Native American artifacts to protect children in the care of the Indian Health and Indian Health Service, and to make eagle remains more easily accessible for cultural and religious purposes, and to highlight the contributions of Native American veterans throughout the history of our nation. So you know all those elements. And the eagle remains is a very important thing to you, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Very important. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Last year, I signed the first presidential proclamation recognizing the tragedy of missing and murdered American Indians and Alaska Natives. We also launched Operation Lady Justice and provided $273 million to improve public safety in Native American tribal communities. At the end of this event, I will once again sign a proclamation recognizing missing and murdered American Indians and Alaska Native Awareness Day. It's been a tremendous problem, missing and murdered American Indians. It's been could you discuss that for a second, please?
I don't want to steal a second lady's thunder here.
I'd like to have the second lady. Go ahead, please.
Well, Navajo Nation has been really hit hard by missing and murdered Indigenous women. It seems to be a growing a growing issue that's been happening with Navajo. And so we, with the Ashlyn Mike case that came up in 2016, where she was kidnapped and raped and murdered in Shiprock, New Mexico, May 2nd, 2016. So that's kind of what opened the door for Navajo to start saying, okay, we need to do something, because that became the forefront. And so since then, the Amber Alert on Navajo Nation has gotten better, but still needs help with funding, still needs help with getting the data together. Our First Lady, Cecilia Yanez, is also part of the New Mexico task force that's getting together data. And so we're just really needing help in that sense. And so we don't want to lose any more of our Native sisters, our Native mothers. And so the cry is to get the awareness out, because a lot of people don't know of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and now it's hitting the LGBTQ community. And so we just want to make that aware and know that, hey, we're waving our arms here. I think there was a movie that came out with Native women that have been murdered and missing. And so it hits close to home, because we have a close family member, Patricia Potero, that went missing in 2015. They found her 2 months later murdered in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so her case still remains unsolved. We got Tamika Platero, who's from Little Water, New Mexico, who went missing November 25th, 2019, and is still missing. And so we have these girls out there that are missing, and we don't know. And there's that jurisdiction.
Been far disproportionate to other people in other areas of the country. What you've gone through. I mean, I've been hearing about this for a long time.
Yes.
For years and years. This has been for many years, for many decades, right?
Yes.
Disproportionate.
Yes.
Disproportionate.
Well, $273 million, a lot of that's going to go toward trying to solve that problem. It's a problem that can be solved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I know you're going to use it well.
Yes.
And you'll figure it out, right?
Yes.
It's a horrible thing. So New Mexico versus Arizona, tell me, because we're here. Where are you going to be? Where's the problem worse? New Mexico or Arizona?
Navajo Nation spans Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. And so, I think all of us working collaboratively, that's going to really help, because sometimes we get misclassified. We get misclassified as Hispanic. And so I think there was a Hopi girl that had been murdered here in Phoenix, and they classified her as Hispanic. And so a lot of times, the people don't know. So I think with the more talks out there, that people will, start to.
Is there a certain area, though, or you have the 4 states? Is there a certain area where the problem is exacerbated or worse, or is it?
Well, I think it's just all Indian country, Indian country, whether it's Alaska Native or Navajo or Hopi or Gila River, it's all over.
It's a very big problem in Alaska.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I could add to that, just recently in Farmington, New Mexico, there was an Anglo woman who was abducted, and I'm most certain she came across the Navajo Nation and was found murdered in near Flagstaff, Arizona. And so I think it just speaks largely to the lack of public safety officers in such a vast land, the size of West Virginia.
It is a vast land.
So not only Navajo and others, but it's just an area that I guess because there's not as many public safety that you get those
Well,
kinds
I'm
of...
going to be signing something in a couple of moments, and I hope it helps a lot, not just a little bit, a lot.
Yes.
And I think you'll do a fantastic job. I know you're going to be watching it personally.
Yes.
And between the 3 of you and everyone else that I know so well, I think you're going to do a great job. And so go get them.
Thank you, Mr.
Go do
President.
the job. I'd like to maybe finish off with the governor. Great governor. You're doing a phenomenal job. What do you have to say, Doug?
Well, my mic thankfully is working. First, I want to say thank you, Mr. President. We're thrilled that you're back in Arizona, especially to talk these specific tribal issues. I want to say to Second Lady Leiser, to Vice President Leiser, to Governor Lewis, this focus that we've had on our tribal nations, first and foremost, around the coronavirus, with a special shout out to Senator McSally, who advocated for for these ventilators that were so needed on Navajo Nation. Please extend my best to President Nez, and I'm so grateful, Mr. President, that you took a personal interest in getting these ventilators to Navajo Nation, and I'm proud, Mr. Secretary. In Arizona, our legislature, both Democrat and Republican, last year signed HB 2570. And Second Lady Leiser, I want to give a personal thank you to you. This was the bill to address missing and murdered Indigenous people, and what we hope to do in Arizona is to reduce and eliminate this scourge that we have on our native nations. And in Arizona, we have 22 tribal nations, and 75% of the Navajo people reside in the state of Arizona. So that was a positive thing that we could get done last year. And Governor Lewis, I want to say to you, another positive thing in addition to the HB 2570 that we passed, it was also unanimous, was the drought contingency plan to address Arizona's water future. You were a real leader on that, and for that I'm grateful. Thank you for being here to celebrate these accomplishments, Mr.
And you know, one of the other accomplishments we have is in Arizona and a lot of other states, we're building a wall, and you're finally getting what you need. And interestingly, California's calling, because in bordering towns, as you know, in Mexico, they have a very big outbreak of the coronavirus. And California's calling, saying, you got to help us. Those are not calls that the media knows about, but that's the facts. And in Tijuana, right along the border, they have a tremendous outbreak. And we have just completed 172 miles of wall, and it's real wall, not the kind you were having built over the years that were sort of scoffed at, right? And we've done a lot in Arizona, and the people are letting us know they're so happy, they're so thrilled about it. It's made a tremendous difference, and we've had one of the best months ever in the history of our country for not having people come in that we don't want in our country. We want to have the people that come in the right way. So you see the numbers. The numbers are about the best we've ever had in the history of the country. So it's good. But we're getting that done. I guess do you see where they're doing it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a big thing. We're up to 172 miles. We'll have it completed early next year. So it's been something. Okay, I'm going to sign this. I want to just congratulate you, Myron.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I want to congratulate you, Second Lady. That's so fantastic.
Thank you.
And I want to congratulate you for also, because I've been in that vicinity, and it's one of the most beautiful places you can imagine. So congratulations very much. Thank you, Stephen.
Mr. President, what are your thoughts on winding down the coronavirus task force?
1 second, Jim.
Yes, sir. Oh, sir.
I want to make sure everybody looks good, except me. I'm going to hand this to the Second Lady, okay? No, you don't mind.
Mr. President, I want to thank you.
Go ahead, please.
I want to thank you again.
Stephen, go ahead.
I'm wearing my red ribbon in remembrance of this significant moment for missing and murdered Native Americans. And again, I want to thank you for making such an announcement today and for signing an important document to commemorate the National Day of Awareness. And I know that your administration also made another very important announcement today regarding the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And thank you for that. And to take a few moments to comment about that as well. I want to thank, of course,
We have more cases than anybody else. Does anybody really believe that we have more cases than China? But they don't talk about numbers like this, and other countries. But we report everything. And
don't you want to hear from the experts?
I just want to say that we've done an incredible job on testing. With that being said, we have some additional, including antibody tests coming out, that will even blow these numbers away. But nobody's done the job we've done. Go ahead.
But don't you need to continue to meet with the task force to get this scientific expertise on this pandemic?
we will have certain people, as an example, we have hospitals that we built. We have medical centers that we built. We have people on the task force that focus on that. We have people on the task force that's focused exclusively on ventilators. Well, we have more ventilators now than anybody in the world, and we're helping France, as you know. We're helping France, Italy, Spain, Nigeria. We're giving, I think, 250 to Nigeria. We have many countries that we're helping, but the ventilator problem is solved, so you don't need that. We have now it's sort of a combination of safety and reopening. So we'll have something in a different form. But the task force, for what we've done, I think everybody out there, when they're being very honest, I think the job we've done on testing will shortly be, and maybe even supersede, Doug, the job that we've done on ventilators, which people can't even believe. We had a call the other day with the governors. Mike Pence took the call, and they had, I believe, all 50 governors. And it was, they say, the best call we've had thus far. We're working closely with the governors. They have everything they need. And if they don't have it, and if they don't need it, or if they can't get it locally, then they know that we are stocked and we are ready. And we can have, as an example, we won't need this, but we were ready for weeks to have, we had 10,000 ventilators sitting in various locations with people by the ventilators ready to have those ventilators roll if they needed them in, as an example, Detroit or various other places over the country. So I think that as far as the task force, Mike Pence and the task force have done a great job, but we're now looking at a little bit of a different form, and that form is safety and opening, and we'll have a different group probably set up for that.
Are you saying mission accomplished?
No, not at all. The mission accomplished is when it's over. When it's over, Jim, mission accomplished. No, I wouldn't say that at all.
Are you certain you'll get the advice you need, sir? Are you
What?
certain you will get the advice you need health-wise, in a sense?
What does that mean? Go ahead, repeat your question.
Are you
Say
certain
it.
you'll get the advice that you need in
Oh, yeah,
terms
we have
of
great advice. We have great people. We have great people. Yeah, we have great doctors. We have great medical people, laboratory people. I have to say, I think tremendous progress is being made on vaccines, which everybody should be very happy to hear. And therapeutically, I think we're making very good progress, too. We're making tremendous progress. We have the greatest doctors in the world, the greatest laboratories in the world. And I have to say, we're working with other nations. We're working with UK, we're working with Germany, we're working with various other nations who are very advanced and doing a good job. I think therapeutically and also from the standpoint of laboratories, we are laboratories as it pertains to vaccines. We're doing very well. I'd love to see a therapeutic answer even before the vaccine, because we could take care of people that have a current problem or dilemma. But therapeutically and for the vaccines, a tremendous amount of progress. Oxford, Johnson & Johnson, incredible places are doing, I think, a really good job. And they're very advanced, but we have to now see. We're going up to that very delicate final stage with a number. I think a number of other countries are also doing quite well, my people say. And just so you know, working very closely with other countries, and whoever gets it first, my hat's off to them. We're not looking for first, second, or third. We're looking to get a vaccine that works, and progress has been made.
Mr. President, just to follow up on Jim's question, with the doctors saying that there might be a recurrence of coronavirus in the fall, can you just explain why is now the time to wind down that task force?
Well, because we can't keep our country closed for the next 5 years. You know, you could say there might be a recurrence, and there might be, and most doctors or some doctors say that it will happen, and it'll be a flame, and we're going to put the flame out. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about the coronavirus. We've learned a lot about this hidden enemy. It's a dangerous enemy. It's a bad enemy. You see what it does, especially for people over a certain age and people that have an infirmity. If you have diabetes, if you have a bad heart, if you have a certain problem, it just, Myron, it just goes after you. It's vicious. Right. And we're saying that people that are over 60, 65, but over 60, we're even saying, sort of stay back for a while. We recommend you staying back for a while. At the same time, with young children and children, we'd like to see the schools open early next season and on time. It's incredible how it's very unique how the children aren't affected, but people that have problems, and older people are can be very badly hurt, injured, or die from this problem.
Mr. President,
Hold on, I just want to finish a follow-up. If I understand you don't want to keep the country closed for 5 years, but don't you want your advisors to keep looking at this closely the way you have?
They are
in the
looking
last
at it
few
very
months?
closely. They are looking at it very closely. And I just said it today. I used the word for the first time, I think, in terms of what we're doing. I'm viewing our great citizens of this country, to a certain extent and to a large extent, as warriors. They're warriors. We can't keep our country closed. We have to open our country. Somebody said, oh, we could keep it for the next 18 months. We could keep it for the next 2 years. Doug Ducey's done an incredible job as the governor of Arizona. The people aren't going to accept it. They won't accept it, and they shouldn't accept it. We have a great country. We can't keep it closed. I mean, I've had doctors say, well, why don't we close it for a couple of years? This is the United States of America. I created, with a lot of other very talented people and the people of our country, the greatest economy in the history of the world, the greatest that we've ever had, the greatest employment numbers, the best numbers we've ever had, the best stock markets. I think we had 144 days of record stock markets. And then one day they said, we have to close our country. Well, now it's time to open it up. And you know what? The people of our country are warriors, and I'm looking at it. I'm not saying anything is perfect, and yes, will some people be affected? Yes. Will some people be affected badly? Yes. But we have to get our country open, and we have to get it open soon. Maybe I could ask Doug if you'd like to address that point.
Well, I just want to say in Arizona, we have put public health first. We have looked at the numbers that your medical experts put forward in the Opening Up America Again plan in terms of our symptoms, our cases, our hospital capacity, our ability to surge on our testing. And we're going to continue to put public health first, but we know so much more today than we did 6 or 8 weeks ago. So we believe that we want to protect our most vulnerable. Those are the folks that are of a certain age with the underlying health condition. But the first objective was that the largest places were shut down. Major League Baseball made the decision to shut down spring training. Those are some of the best weeks of the year in the state of Arizona. Major League Baseball has delayed opening day. Schools are not in session. So these large gathering places have dispersed. We've been able to address the fact that we have hospital capacity, ICU capacity, and ventilator capacity if it's necessary. Today it doesn't look as it will be. So we have our arms around the public health emergency in Arizona, and the president, the vice president, and the medical experts, along with the cabinet secretaries, have given the latitude to governors to make decisions on what's in the best public health interest of their state. Arizona is not New York State. It wasn't hit first. It wasn't hit that hard. We've learned a lot from what those states have gone through, and we're going to apply it to protect our citizens.
Mr. President, do you still want the advice of Drs. Fauci and Dr. Birx? Will they still be involved even once the task force is disbanded?
Sure, yeah, they will be, and so will other doctors, and so will other experts in the field. But we've learned a lot. As Doug said, we've learned a lot. You could probably have fires here, Doug. You'll put them out. You're going to put them out, and you'll put them out fast. So, yeah, we're bringing our country back, and I think what is going to happen, just said it a little while ago, you're going to have the third quarter where you're going to have transition. You'll have a big, beautiful, hopefully a very good transition, a very successful transition back into the real world. And then you're going to have a fourth quarter that I think is going to do very well. And then I think next year, I think we're going to have one of the best years we've ever had, because we have stimulus and we have a pent-up demand like I have never seen before. You know, today's a very interesting day because it's my first day out, and Doug reminded me of something. I didn't do it for that reason, but you said this is the first place you stopped when you ran, when I ran for something that turned out to be a very successful run. And we had tremendous crowds, you remember, at the convention center in Phoenix, and it was pretty incredible. And I didn't do it for that reason, interestingly, but here we are, and it was great that you remind us of that fact. But look, we're going to have a very interesting transition period into the fourth quarter. I think your fourth quarter is going to be very good, and I think next year is going to be one of the best years economically we've ever had. With that said, for those people that have lost somebody, for the people that have lost a loved one, even a close friend, nothing can ever happen that's going to replace that. I don't care what kind of a year you have from an economic standpoint. Nobody's ever going to replace that. But I think from an economic standpoint, purely an economic standpoint, I think next year is potentially going to be one of the best years we've had. There's tremendous stimulus out there, and people want to get out. They want to go, and they want to go to town. This country was founded on certain principles, and those principles are at work like you've never seen before. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you, and we'll see you perhaps at the next stop. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. That way, to the right. Will you get it? If there's a vaccine, will you get it? Coronavirus vaccine?
Right. What about it?
If there's a coronavirus vaccine, will you get it? Will you take it?
Will I take it?
Yeah.
If they would like me to, I'd go the first one, or I'd go the last one. I don't want to waste it. But he's just saying, if there's a vaccine, would you take it? And she might like it that it didn't work too well, okay? But that's okay. I would absolutely, Jim. If there's a vaccine and if they wanted me to be first online, I'd be first online, or I'd be last online, or I wouldn't take it at all, whatever's best for the country.
All right,
Okay?
let's go, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Oops, sorry, Tom.